Hello there, it's me, Shepherd Shang, bringing to you another episode of Abyssalcraft is Kind of Awesome. And in today's episode, I am showing you how to do rituals, what rituals you can do, and what they're good for. Now, you'll notice that there's a wall behind me. And these are the ritual recipes, I guess you can call them. Now, there are 9? I think it's 9 rituals that you can do with materials available to you in the Overworld. Where you can find out how to do them is under the Rituals tab again. You go to Normal. Yeah, there are 9 of them. Again, the Necronomicon shows you what to do. But, because I'm demonstrating stuff, you get to come here. I'm going to show you anyway. Now, this pattern here, this pattern is not essential, I'd call it. This is basically the layout for the ritual altar. That's the center, and those are the various pedestals around it. The stuff that's in the center always has to be in the center. But the items that go on the surrounding pedestals do not have to be in a specific pattern. The patterns here are basically just to make them look good in the Necronomicon. Now, what does this particular ritual make? This makes the Oblivion Catalyst. This is a very important item for you. The Oblivion Catalyst is used in a bunch of important stuff. So, if you are planning on going through Abyssalcraft, you absolutely need this. Now, the Shards of Oblivion, I don't believe I've actually shown you how to make them. So I put it here. In order to make a Shard of Oblivion, you need 4 Shadow Gems, and this item here, the Transmutation Gem, which you'll notice is up there in that recipe. But I'm going to get to that in a second. First, I'm going to show you this. 2000 PE. Now, if you've been paying attention, you should be able to figure out what that's for pretty easily. In order to do this ritual, it requires 2000 PE stored in the Necronomicon. Now, I'm going to show off how this works in a bit when I actually demonstrate a ritual. The 2000 PE is how much energy it costs to do the ritual. So if you don't have 2000 PE stored in your Necronomicon, the ritual will not work. Now, I can actually show you what can go wrong when you do rituals without enough energy, which I only just thought of. I really should have thought of sooner. So I'm going to demonstrate that too. Now, there is one other thing I forgot to put on this wall in regards to rituals, and that is this: location anywhere. So as you progress through the mod, you'll uncover more rituals, and you will learn that some of them can only be done in specific dimensions. In this case, the ritual for the Oblivion Catalyst can be done in any dimension, but there are dimension-specific rituals, eventually. And now on to the Transmutation Gem I mentioned just a bit ago. This is another really useful item. It's not quite as important as the Oblivion Catalyst and the Shards of Oblivion, but it has a bunch of uses. And you make it with this: a Crallian Pearl, 4 Blaze Powder, 2 Diamonds, and 2 Ender Pearls. It requires 200... No, that's 300. I'm not looking at it right. 300 PE. Now, this recipe I showed you here for making the Shards of Oblivion is the only recipe in the Overworld that uses the Transmutation Gem. You will find more recipes in the future, but for now, that's all it's good for. So you know how I mentioned that there are more powerful versions of the energy pedestal? Well, you get them from doing rituals. In this case, this ritual makes the Overworld energy pedestal. So what does that mean? Well, you need these particular materials 2 Shadow Gem Shards, 2 Corallium Pearls, 2 Cobblestone, and 2 Darkstone Cobblestone, as well as an Energy Pedestal, to make the Overworld Energy Pedestal. So I just mentioned how there are dimension-specific rituals. Well, that doesn't actually have anything to do with the Energy Pedestal, but it is a similar concept. The Energy Pedestals can be used in any dimension, except for the Nether, I think. I don't quite remember that. But anyway, the Overworld Energy Pedestal is basically an energy pedestal that will only work in the Overworld. And why would you bother with this if you can just use the Energy Pedestal? Well, the Overworld Energy Pedestal works faster. I mentioned before that the Energy Pedestal is a little bit slow. The dimension-specific Energy Pedestals work much faster. So, generally speaking, they're worth the cost. I mean, Shadow Gem Shards aren't super difficult to get, but they're not. Anyway. So, just like the Energy Pedestal, there is upgraded versions of the Sacrificial Altar. And you'll notice that the ritual recipe is pretty much exactly the same. Yeah, it even uses the same amount of PE. And this gets you the Overworld Sacrificial Altar. So again, they're basically more efficient versions of the Sacrificial Altar for each of the dimensions. And now on to the Ritual Charm recipes. I showed off the Ritual Charm in the first video about Overworld, the Overworld biomes, and I told you we'd get to them eventually. Well, here we go. There are 3 different types of Ritual Charms at the basic level. One that does range. Yes, this was the range one. I believe this is the duration one, and this is the power one. Although I might have gotten those confused. So basically what they do is the range charm, when used on the statues you saw earlier, will make it so the statues will work from farther away. Which I don't think I actually mentioned in that video, darn it. The statues normally will only give you energy if you're within 3 blocks of them. Yeah, I don't think I mentioned it, darn it. So using the range ritual charm on one will increase how far away they can work. And this recipe is duration. I was right. The duration charm basically makes how to describe this? You remember how the statues just sort of gave off a small puff of smoke for a second, and that was basically it for giving you energy? The duration charm will make that transfer of energy last longer. You get the same amount of energy over time, but it will be for longer. So I think that's the best way I can think to explain it. And this is the power charm. The statues will put off a specific amount, give you a specific amount of PE at any time. The power charm makes it so they give out more PE over the normal time. And I think I've just realized that I didn't actually show off the recipe for the charms in this episode. Yeah, so it uses 8 gold ingots and a diamond, and to make a regular ritual charm. The purpose of the rituals is to give them specific abilities. Okay, so I've just realized I forgot something to mention something else. Those rituals are called crafting rituals. Yeah, those are rituals that are specifically used to craft items. But there are rituals that don't. These are, I suppose you'd call them utility rituals. There's a third type of ritual called summoning rituals, which we'll get into in the next dimension, but for the moment we were on these. This is the ritual of fertility. Again, you notice that there isn't something in the center for the main pedestal. That's because you don't put anything there. And those ones on the bottom were the outputs for the crafting rituals. And these don't have outputs. So what's the ritual fertility? The ritual fertility is basically it will breed any nearby mobs that are capable of breeding. So if you've got 2 cows nearby, they'll have a baby. Yes. If I remember the mechanics properly, it goes by quantities of 2, I think. However many of the mobs you have. In order for the ritual to work, there has to be at least 2 mobs of the same type nearby capable of breeding. Yeah. Again, it's not super complicated. It's basically just a way to breed the animals a little bit differently. However, I should note that there is the possibility that the ritual fertility, even if you do it right, it can still go wrong, and it will simply kill all nearby friendly mobs. So yeah, watch out for that. Now, this one, antimatter eradication. This one is a little bit more dangerous. I mentioned the antimatter effect a few times, simply because it's pretty nasty. Well, this ritual basically, when you do the ritual, anything nearby you, well, you, nearby the ritual altar, will get infected with the antimatter effect. Yes. Now, off the top of my head, I do not remember if that includes you. I'm going to test this ritual in this video, just to show you, just to make sure. Transition! So this is the ritual of antimatter eradication. Now, you'll notice that these items are not in the same pattern as it was on the wall. And again, that's because they don't need to be in the same pattern. Let's spawn in some mobs for it to affect. And let's ones that can actually turn into antimatter mobs. And go. And I need to see the smoke. Those smoke effects, that shows you that a ritual has occurred. I don't think I had mentioned that. And they all got affected by antimatter. Now let's see if we did. No, we didn't. And again, the cows turn into anti-cows. So that was antimatter eradication. Not always the most useful thing, but hey, it's fun. Okay, so this is the ritual for getting the Oblivion Catalyst. I forgot to mention it, but remember how they use PE? This had 5,000, the antimatter eradication used 300. And again, these items do not need to be in a specific pattern. Now, shift right click on it. The smoke effects show that it's working, again. We've got a little fireballs, I guess, coming out of it. The rituals don't take very long, generally. And this one was successful. You now have an Oblivion Catalyst. Now I'm going to show you what happens when a ritual doesn't work quite right. Okay, so these are the materials to make a transmutation gem. And I'm going to show you what happens when you don't do the rituals right. This is a new Necronomicon I just pulled out of Creative, and it has 0 PE on it. Now, you might think that if it has 0 PE, the ritual won't activate. Well, you're wrong. If you shift right click on the center altar with a Necronomicon, and there are enough materials in the pedestals to activate a ritual, the ritual will activate. Unfortunately for you, if you don't have enough PE in the Necronomicon, it will use up all of those materials except for the one in the center, and you will not get the item you were trying to get. In this case, it was a transmutation gem. We failed. So, little word of warning for you there. Transition! So, I've mentioned this item back in the first episode. how it was very important. But you needed some materials you didn't have to make it. Well, I've just shown you how to get the Oblivion Catalyst. I've showed you how to get the Corallium Pearls before, and these are just blaze rods. This is just a normal crafting recipe. You don't have to use a ritual for it. But you get the gateway key. Yes. Well, we've finally done it. We've gotten through pretty much everything in the overworld, aside from the stuff that I've inevitably forgotten. So, it's time to go to the next dimension. How do you do that? You use the gateway key. You can just use it anywhere. And boom, portal. This is the portal to the Abyssal Wasteland, the first dimension added by Abyssalcraft. You'll notice that it is made out of abyssal stone. This is a material you'll find in the next dimension. And these are abyssal stone bricks. Also something you can get from the next dimension. Now, you'll notice that using the key did not use up any kind of durability. The gateway key has potentially infinite uses. So, don't worry. Don't throw it away, it's a bit hard to make. And you can use it, well, many times. And I shall note that you're going to need it many times. Yes, that is a hint of how the dimensions work, by the way. So, we're done with the overworld now. Time to enter the Abyssal Wasteland. Bloopers! Hello there, it's me, Shepherd Chong, and bringing to you another episode of Abyssalcraft is Kind of Awesome. And in this episode we are going over rituals, how to do them, and what they're used for, what they make, what to do, what the what. Yeah. Okay. I just got kind of started rambling there. I think I'm gonna start over.